How did that happen where you bought the company?
He had another full-time job, and this was good faith was a side gig for him, but I was working at it full-time. So I got married, had 2 kids, and just needed to make some more money. So kind of told him I'm either gonna start my own business or would he be interested in selling, and he was. So when he signed and we took over, like we didn't have insurance in place yet or anything. So bought him out May 1st of 2009. So we just had our 15-year anniversary a couple weeks ago.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cost of Doing Business podcast. Today we are in Pittsburgh. I like coming to Pittsburgh and do a day trip, and it works well.
Nice.
We're here with Kent and his team at Good to Great Landscape. Already had a great morning. Thanks, Kent, for the tour and
Yeah, no problem.
taking us to that awesome breakfast restaurant. Got a fresh coffee still here. I'll be nursing throughout the podcast. But
Perfect.
Yeah, give us an intro. Thanks for doing this, and give us an intro to Kent and Good to Great, and we'll kick things off.
My name's Kent, owner of Good to Great Landscape. We've been in business since 2009, and originally it was a company called Good Faith Lawn Care, which I started working at when I was 14. So
Good to Faith.
Good Faith.
Good Faith.
Yeah,
Okay,
Good
gotcha,
Faith
yeah.
Lawn Care. Yep. Yeah, we bought it in 2009 and then changed the name, and here we are today. 15.
That's funny. So Good Faith to Good to Great.
Yeah, 15 years later. Yep.
That's pretty cool. I like it. I like the logo that you have up there on the wall, like G to G. That's pretty nice. At Tussie, we always use the G to G for like good to go, you know?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people think our name is.
Yeah.
Good to go. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. I know there's a little bit of a story there already just from what we were talking about this morning. You started working for Good Faith at 14. Tell us how you got to, how did that happen where you bought the company?
I had worked for the guy for I don't even know how many years anymore, but he had another full-time job, and this was Good Faith was a side gig for him, but I was working at it full-time. So I got married, had 2 kids, and just needed to make some more money. So kind of told him I'm either gonna start my own business or would he be interested in selling, and he was. So we pursued that and bought him out May 1st of 2009. So we just had our 15-year anniversary a couple weeks ago.
Wow, man, what was going through your mind? Like, did it feel like, oh, man, I don't know if I can do this, or was it like, dude, I can't wait, let's go?
It happened so quick that I didn't have a whole lot of time to think about it, to be honest. So we had one of our customers was generous enough to loan me some money, and the money was there, and my old boss signed on the dotted line really quickly. And so it happened. When he signed and we took over, like we didn't have insurance in place yet or anything. So we were expecting him to negotiate a little bit, and he didn't even look at the contract. He just signed it and asked where his check was.
Wow.
So it was a quick transition.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How long had the business been running before you bought it?
I worked there 12 years before I bought it, and it was established. So probably close.
So you were there since the beginning?
Yeah, it was a really small business when I first started. It was just trimming and a little bit of mulching, and we cut like 4 or 5 yards. So just had a handful of customers, and then as I got older and kind of helped grow, we got into some installs and little patios and stuff like that.
What was the company doing at the time that the transition happened? Like, were you doing the patios and installs and that kind of thing, or did that come after?
So we did our first actual big patio like the year that I bought it.
Okay.
Prior to me buying it. So like that was kind of where I got the itch to get into hardscapes and stuff like that.
Were you playing a lead role in the business before you bought it, like where it just kind of felt natural to step in and take over?
Yeah, I was acting as the operator.
I see.
So I was doing a lot of the sales, getting crews going in the morning, stuff like that.
So I can see how that makes sense to where it didn't feel like a big leap, like you were just, yeah.
It was really, the transition was real. Everybody was used to reporting to me, so it was just an easy transition, honestly, except for it was a little awkward with my boss because he still wanted to work with us part-time.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't last very long.
Why would he want to do that after?
He liked doing the work. Like
Really?
He was a really hard worker. He just didn't like the business side of it. So he thought maybe he would try it, but then it just didn't go over very well.
Have you ever read the E-Myth?
No, I haven't.
He calls it a technician that has an entrepreneurial seizure.
Yeah.
Someone that loves to do the work is like, dude, I can do this, you know, and gets into business, but then realizes they hate the business. They just like to do the work.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
is that kind of how you would say this was?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Would you say you've had a similar experience, or did you know what you were signing up for? You had the entrepreneurial itch. You genuinely wanted to enjoy the challenge of growing a business, so to speak.
Yeah, I had a pretty good idea of what I was in for. I started cutting grass when I was like, I think 10 years old, and I negotiated a deal with my neighbor to use her lawnmower if I cut her grass for free, and then I cut 3 of our other neighbors. So it's just like I've always had like that sense to try to make money and do things to make money, and it wasn't too big of a jump right off the bat.
Sure, yeah. So let's fast forward to today. What does Good to Great look like in terms of how many employees do you have? What kind of revenue range are you in? What does your bread and butter type project look like your services that you offer, all that stuff?
Sure. So we're about 30 employees right now. We have about 20 guys working in the field. We have 5 office staff, and then we have 1 maintenance guy, and then we have 4 drivers. Our services are basically outdoor living spaces, excavating. We do pools, fencing, stuff like that.
Okay. When you say excavating, do you mean like site work after a new home's built, that kind of thing, or just do you actually dig basements and that kind of thing too?
Yeah. So we're in the middle of a $3 million site development job.
Really?
We've got some big equipment, and we've moved at least 100,000 yards of dirt, water lines, utilities, roadways, all that kind of stuff.
Do you use SynkedUP for that side too?
Yep.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
And everybody's tracking their time and gets their job info and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Do you utilize the photos at all?
So, no.
No, okay.
So we kind of started that job in the middle of switching. We were already like a year into that job. So a lot of the site work stuff has already been pre-bid, but so it's all the extras and stuff like that we're doing through SynkedUP.
Yeah, sure. How many employees did you have at the time that you bought the business?
7.
So from 7 to 30 in 15 years.
Yeah, we've been as high as 50.
Really?
It seems like 20 to 25 is our sweet spot.
What makes the sweet spot for you? Like, what makes it feel like a sweet spot?
Just feels manageable. Ideally, we have 15 to 20 people in the field working. That's like the sweet spot. When we have more than that, it just gets too chaotic, too many things going on. We don't do a lot of maintenance. Our jobs are a little bit more like probably $150,000 to $300,000 our typical job. They're a little bit more like details that not anybody can just show up and put a pool in the right place or put a retaining wall at the right elevation, whatever. So we have a good crew that's been with us for a long time. Like our foremen have all been here for like 5+ years. Mm-hmm. It's been hard to duplicate that and get people that want to, have that same standard of excellence that they provide. So that's why 15 to 20 seems like a sweet spot.
So what took you to 50? Were you just growing? The work was there, so you just kept on adding people?
Yeah. It was a lot when we were doing a lot of maintenance.
I see.
Like we had 2 grass crews. We had like full-time mulch and trim crews. So we don't do any of that anymore.
So going from 50 to 30 really meant getting rid of your grass, mulching, trimming.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And you kept all the install.
Yeah.
So that's really what happened.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, logistics and maintenance are, it's another level.
Yeah. Yep. And I have no interest in it. So it's just like one of those things where for a while I thought it was a necessary evil, but
it's a lot of people think that,
Yeah.
It is whatever you make it.
Yeah. So I'm not saying we would never get back into it, but like just right now, the phase we're in, we're more focused on building and construction and stuff like that versus cutting grass and, planting flowers and maintaining stuff.
You ever done $1 million job?
Yep.
When was the first one?
2013.
So 4 years after buying the business.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what kind of project sizes were you doing at the time that you bought it?
Less than 10,000.
Really?
Yeah.
So how did you do that so quickly?
One of the builders that we worked for approached us with this job and we bid it, and it started off as like I think $275,000 job, and it grew and grew and kept growing.
So you sold at $275,000 and it turned into $1 million.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
I know a common thing that people ask is like, dude, I've never bid a job this big before. How do you bid it? How do you come up with the price?
Back then was a lot of guessing. Back then, couldn't afford to mess up some stuff. Like a load of gravel was a couple $100. A triaxle of sifted topsoil was $150. Now $700 to $1,000 for those loads. So it's a lot different if you mess up today.
Did you bid by hours, or how did you determine your bid in terms of days, or how did you do it?
We had like a formula for like, we did a lot of boulder walls at this job. We knew what it costs like per load of boulders on average. We had a square foot price for pavers. And then we've always used for landscaping, take the cost of the plant, add a markup and double it. And it's hard to lose on that.
And what do you do now? You still do square foot and double costs and softscape and that kind of thing?
No, everything's run through SynkedUP now.
If you were doing square foot, like what does it look like now? Do you have templates, or do you use production rates of some sort, or do you just go by like, it's gonna take me 5 days, so that means?
It's a little bit of everything. We always have like the square foot price to start with, and then
when you say to start with, you mean like when you're talking to the client, kind of a...
Yeah, like a generalized number, like
Sure.
that can give us like a quick number, but then depending on the size of the paver, the square footage, access, all that, then we break that down into how many days it's gonna take to install, and then cost of the pavers, limestone, how thick it's gotta be, and all that stuff. And then that's where we come up with the price now.
Humor me, so for the sake of everybody listening, why don't you do square foot anymore?
Because it's not right. You lose on sidewalks and tight areas and small pavers and stuff like that.
So I've had some people tell me like, oh yeah, well, I just have a different square foot price for sidewalks and tight access and all of that. Like, what would you say to that?
I mean, for us, we've always lost on sidewalks. So it's just like one of those things like where people don't believe you that it costs this much to do a sidewalk or a really small patio. So we always encourage people to lose sidewalks or just get a bigger patio, or if you're thinking about a smaller patio, a bigger patio is not going to cost you that much more because
you have to go through all the same steps.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Going from you bought it in 2009, doing $10,000 jobs, and 4 years later you had your first $1 million job under your belt.
Yeah.
In your journey, like what was the most difficult challenge you've ever encountered?
So second year I was in business, I cut my arm off. So that was...
Not literally.
Yeah, literally.
What?
Yeah, literally the entire arm.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I got caught in a salt spreader, the auger of a salt spreader.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So how on earth? So I mean, you have movement.
It's like probably 70%.
I didn't even notice. Like you wouldn't even. I wouldn't have even guessed.
Well, that's good.
Impressive.
Yeah. The night it happened, they took me to the hospital, obviously, and it was the hand surgeon there was the first surgeon in the United States to complete a hand transplant. He was able to get it back on, and I could move like 2 fingers within like 12 hours.
And it was completely severed.
Yeah. The only thing that was, you can see like I have a scar
There's
here.
still some
So just the
tissue.
skin.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so
the bone, the tendons, the muscle.
everything, yeah.
Oh my word. That's a miracle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I had I didn't need a blood transfusion, and I had no infection, and I was wrapped around a rusty auger. So it was, definitely an act of God that saved me from that.
And you were working again the next day.
So I missed 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness. Lose an arm and miss 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's unreal. That's tremendous.
Yeah. So that really transitioned me from working. When that happened, I was in the field constantly. And then that kind of started the transition from me out of the field to
working on the business.
Yeah.
Interesting. So had that never happened, what do you think your business would look like today?
I have no idea. I've thought about that a lot. Probably something like it is today, hopefully, but I don't know. It really, I love doing the work. I love, planting and coming up with the designs and doing the installs. So now I just get in the way.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you couldn't work for a short time. Would you say that lit a spark to, like, would you say it had a mindset shift in how you viewed your business?
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, I was a major hothead before that happened. Like I worked, 7 days a week. It kind of put a lot of things into perspective. With like, seeing my kids and family time, but then also like if that was a worst case scenario, I didn't make it through that accident, would G2G be able to survive without me? And probably not. So it was eye-opening in that regard too.
What would you say, could G2G survive without you today?
Oh, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
Like if somebody that's listening to this and their business could not survive if they didn't work in it today, what are the ingredients to make that transition, to make that actually happen? Like what would you point at and say like, this was really important and this really helped and this is what, if I had to go back and do it, this is what I would do?
Probably putting the right people in place, delegating. That was probably one of the hardest things for me is not knowing when you can't do everything and finding people that can, even if they don't know how, give them a chance and let them figure it out. Like the two people that do design work for us, they'd worked on hardscapes, and then to fill in wintertime, they learned UVision, and then they started doing designs, and now she does that full time.
Wow.
So the other guy who's still our hardscape foreman, he was good with computers, and we had the chance to sell that following year, we sold another $1 million job to a famous athlete, and he wanted to see 3D design. All of our designs were drawn on paper, and I said, yep, we can give you a 3D design, no problem. I left that meeting, called Dave, and was like, you need to learn to do 3D designs. And we were the first person to offer that to him, and we sold that job because of that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Speaking to the thing of getting the right people in the right place, I see two kind of common paths in the industry. One is what you're doing, like, a team of 30 people, putting people in the right place. And then there's the other path of like, well, I just want to have my core team of 3, 4, 5 people. It's an owner operator and their couple people. Mm-hmm. What would you say to that? Like, is there pros and cons that you would see? Is it truly just a personal preference? Like, what would you say to that?
I think it's probably just personal preference. I mean, we see that all the time around here. The guys that can still work in the field and just have a small crew, like they're really efficient. They do really high quality work. There's definitely days where I'm like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's simple.
It's just a simpler way. But, there's also drawbacks where it's like if you go on vacation, you're the one that's still answering the phones and you can't ever unplug and you've got to field all the fires. Whereas if you have a team in place, then you do have a chance to step back and do other things or coach your kids' baseball team.
Right.
Stuff like that. So it's hard to do when you're an owner operator for sure.
Yeah. I think from a financial perspective, what I would say is if you're building a business that knowingly, like you're making the choice to build a business that can't run without you, meaning you're an owner operator plus some people, your core team, make sure that business is producing some serious cash. Yeah. And what I mean is the business is profitable, it's paying you as the owner a market rate salary. And by market rate, I mean maybe you'd have to hire 2 or 3 people to do the work that you do. And what's the market rate of those 2 or 3 people? Mm. So the business be profitable, plus producing cash to build assets for you. Yeah. Because when you get to be 50, 60 years old and you're done, you don't want to do this anymore. You don't want to be in the place where the only thing that you've done is pay off your house. And, so if you're going to do the owner operator thing, cool, but don't be lulled to sleep by saying, well, I got everything I need to live my day-to-day life. Yeah. You need to be building your future as well. Whereas if you have a business that can run without you, well, that can be a sellable asset. For sure. That's a little bit different. And so that can be the thing that's your asset for the future. Yeah. The more you can diversify, the better. But my point in what I'm saying there is owner-operator, there's a lot of advantages. Yeah. Simpler life. Often you can be maybe almost more of an artist. People are buying you. But make sure that business is cranking some serious cash away. And often those kinds of companies leverage equipment. Like, it's amazing what they can produce with 2 or 3 people with really efficient equipment. I've even seen to where a team like that, 2 to 3 people, like they have a lot of equipment, but not very many employees to break up the overhead across. So they might be charging $150 an hour. And they can do a job for cheaper than the contractor across the street that's doing it for 80 or 90 an hour because they're so efficient. They're so fast. It's incredible. It is. I was not expecting that when I said, what was the biggest challenge you ever did? But wow. Crazy. That's just, wow. What is the best advice you've ever been given? Probably don't put all your eggs in one basket. We've really tried to do that. We've got rental properties and we have a landscape supply company and pool company and the landscape side of things too. So we just try to have our hands in a lot of different things and, don't just rely on one customer or one job to keep us afloat. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, you even have these mobile homes out here to get your business location for free. Yeah, exactly. That's pretty cool. Yep. When you say that, do you mean that in the business sense? Do you mean it in the personal sense? Like, how is it the business sense that you're referring to? Kind of in everything we do. I do that. We let our kids play a bunch of sports. Like, we're involved in all kinds of different activities. And what would you say, like, to someone that's listening to this and be like, dude, I got one egg in one basket. Like, what would you say? Like, how do you start going down this path? Like, you don't want to be ridiculous or take unnecessary risks. So how do you start like this well, I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket thing. How would you kind of go down that path?
I mean, I feel like if you're doing high quality work, if you're just talking business, it would be really hard not to have the opportunities to do other things, just because word of mouth is the most powerful market.
So you're thinking lines of service, like don't be just a pool company or just whatever. I mean, you have the supply, the landscape supply as well. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, even like for the pool business, you can sell chemicals, you can do the maintenance, you can do the installs, like you can do that. Also lends itself to subbing other guys out to do fencing and concrete, and you can mark that kind of stuff up. So it's like if you're just singularly focused on one thing, I think it would be hard, and you're also missing out on a lot of opportunities.
What's the tipping point between being all things to all people versus differentiated and being the best at a thing?
Yeah, we're kind of going through that right now. It's one of the conversations we're having is, do we get out of the landscaping business and focus on construction, like decks, roof structures, and just outdoor spaces? We would still do, maybe some plantings around those jobs, but it seems like the stuff that's living is the stuff that we have the most callbacks on, whether it's a weed popping up after you finish a planting job or something like that. Those are the things that ruin people's days. And especially around here where we have limited season for things to look nice, it's like everybody wants stuff done before Memorial Day. So you have added stress for that. Whereas if you're just doing the construction side of things, then you don't have to necessarily worry about these made up deadlines that people are having for a little party they're having.
So if you could go back to day one, day one when you started working or day one when you bought the business? Let's say day one when you bought the business. If you go back to the day that you bought the business, what would you tell yourself?
I would say focus more on doing a few things really well than doing too many things, saying yes to too many things.
Knowing when to say no.
Yeah.
What do you think constitutes the time to say no?
I feel like it's the 80-20 rule where you have 80% of your problems from
the living things.
Yeah. So it's like, if you can cut out the things that are going to cause you problems, or the people that last year we did a job for a guy who only cared about getting done and didn't care about the quality or what the job looked like. He just wanted to have it done. I said to our crew, I'm like, this isn't our customer going forward, just because that's not what
it's not what you do.
Yeah, we want to produce high quality work and something that's not going to give us callbacks. We want them to look at that and be like, wow, that looks awesome. Not like this looks thrown together or cheap or mix mash of materials because stuff wasn't available, but he just wanted it done. Yeah, saying no to those types of customers that aren't your customer, like really thinking about who you want to serve and who your customer is, and then making the decision if you want to work for them or not.
I agree. On knowing who your customer is very key. Often, like what we see at SynkedUP is maybe a contractor that's just getting into installation and construction for real. They come to us and they figure out what they need to be charging, and then the immediate reaction is like, well, I can't close any jobs anymore. The reality is that you've been selling to the wrong customer. You've been selling to the customer that wants what you have but can't afford what you have, and it's not your fault. It's not your problem. Like, meaning if their budget is 10 grand and they want a $50,000 backyard, I mean, it's not your problem.
No.
We tend to beat ourselves up, so to speak. My prices are too high. It's like, no, they're not. Go find the people that want what you have and can afford to pay for it. And then it becomes into your sales process of like, how do you vet them? How do you qualify them? That's a huge piece of it.
Yeah. I think with the landscaping business in general, there's just a stigma that you should be able to provide cheap labor, entry-level job. It's not well respected. People think that, we can just tell you, this is our budget, but we want this, and we're not going to sell for anything less. And it's like, if the people in this industry would just band together and keep the prices high and say no to the people that are always trying to beat the price down, then that would serve everyone.
And I wouldn't even say keep the prices high. I would say keep the prices where they need to be so that you can put bread on the table at the end of the day.
Yeah.
High is a relative term. The customer might feel that it's high, but it's like, well, adjust the scope of what you're asking for.
Yeah.
So often it's easy to have head trash over, that's high, they're never gonna go for that. And sometimes they're like, bam, they sign in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the next time you give a $5,000 quote and they run you up one side and down the other trying to save a buck.
Exactly.
I'm sure we've all seen that meme on social media, something like your $5,000 customer talks about all the different, details and how this is going to change your life and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It just goes on and on and on. And the $50,000 customer responds, money sent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
On our session so far, we've said like work to not have all your eggs in one basket, but we've also said learn when to say no and not say yes to everybody. So how do you balance those two?
I mean, it's hard, I think, especially if you're just starting off, like you want to say yes to everything because it's
Pays the bills.
Yeah, it pays the bills. You never know what that connection's gonna, might lead to. And we're not necessarily great at this, but like, being able to have margin in your schedule so you're not always slammed, so you can say yes to some of the jobs that might come your way. Don't always be full. Have money set aside. That seems to cure all your problems.
I'm listening to the book Simple Numbers right now by Greg Crabtree. He's going to be the speaker at the Contractor Summit this year, October 3rd and 4th in Dayton, Ohio. And he talks about the importance of having 2 months of expenses as operating capital at all times. The unhealthy things people would do, like treating their line of credit as like an evergreen loan. There's something he said that was beautifully simplistic that I really liked. He's like, a line of credit should go to zero for at least 30 days a year, always. And the point is if it doesn't, that means you're not treating it well.
Yeah.
You're actually unhealthy.
Yeah.
The line of credit should be to even out those seasons, right?
Yeah.
If you can't get it to zero in a year, not good.
Yeah. We don't even
use one?
No.
Yep, that's even better.
It would be nice to have sometimes.
Well, put it this way, not having it forces you to make really difficult decisions.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes maybe you lose on some opportunity, potentially.
Yeah.
The flip side is you don't get yourself in over your head.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about any of the professional athletes you work for? Is there any cool stories or anything? We're here in Pittsburgh, so.
I don't know if I'm.
You don't have to say any names.
We've done some, pretty high and recognizable athletes. So it's been fun. We've got to help set up for a couple Stanley Cup parties right after they've won the cup.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Did you get invited then?
We weren't allowed to stay. I asked and they said no. We've worked for, several football players and that's been fun. Growing up, I've got a Steeler tattoo, so was cool for a while. And I'm a big baseball fan. One of our customers played for the Yankees, so they bought my family tickets to go to Yankee Stadium. And so we went and watched him play. So that was definitely a highlight.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting experience, knowing the guy off the field and then seeing him play on the field. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, he's been really great to my boys. Like, they both love baseball. He's sent them, like, every team he's been on, he's sent them jerseys.
Really?
And we've been on the field several times and got bats. And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool guy. And it's fun to see, like, someone that's made all this money, but they still, are humble and,
intentional.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to imagine, like, okay, being a guy like that and then having the forethought to, like, get a jersey, send it to my landscaper's 2 boys or whatever. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
We've worked for a billionaire once, and that was crazy. We did it was 2 years ago, we did a full zoo. We did cages for wolverines, bears, panthers, buffalo.
This is private?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Elk, wolves.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what's it like working for those people? Is it any different? Is the money any easier? Is it more difficult to get done and get paid? Like, what's it like?
The pressure's on because they're so used to hearing yes to anything. They say it and they want it done. They don't want to wait a month. They say go and you go. And that's can wreak havoc on your schedule, and that was difficult to deal with.
What do you do now to cope with that?
We actually stopped working for that guy because it was...
Really?
I could wake up in the morning and get a text message and he wants 30 guys that day. It was a lot.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's just like you
there comes a point when it's not worth it.
And it's going back to having all your eggs in one basket. He could have supported us, but it was too much stress on everybody.
Yeah, I can understand that. Where can people reach out to you, get to know you, follow you?
So we have Instagram. It is goodtogreat.landscape.
Goodtogreat.landscape. Is that G2G or spelled out? Spelled out. Okay.
And Facebook.
Okay. Good to great. That's with a number 2.
Number 2. Yep. And then our website is goodtogreatlandscape.com.
With the number 2.
Yep.
Goodtogreatlandscape.com. Yep. Thanks for your hospitality this
thanks
morning.
For coming by.
And giving us a tour and some time to get to know you and your team a little bit. I appreciate that and really appreciate your faith and trust in us as a company as well.
We love it, so
Awesome.
we're sold.
That's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
And we look forward to continuing to be in partnership for your success for many years.
Yeah.
You know, and it's customers like you that enable us to like go back and continue to innovate and reinvent and make things better. Ever since I was working at Tussie as a teenager, like I was always enjoying to like, how can we make this better? We're always forgetting this, or we never have this when we need it. Like, you know, my brain just wants to like imagine a solution, you know, and so that's what we get to do today at SynkedUP, and it's customers like you that allow us to do that. So thank you.
Thanks for having it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's been an incredibly rewarding journey. And I want to invite you out to the Contractor Summit too.
Yeah, I think I'll probably come out to there.
Dayton, Ohio.
That'll be fun.
We'll put the link in the show notes for anybody that's listening, but we're going to be touring Jeremy Swihart's place, which I think you know him.
Yeah, I've follow him on Instagram.
Yeah.
Don't know him personally.
I'm telling you, his business is worth seeing.
Yeah, it seems like he's got it together.
The things he comes up with, you know, like his tool cage, like his brain is just always going.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoy getting to know him and can't wait to be out there we're going to do a spotlight, meaning go out and see his business.
Okay,
and tour, spend one evening there. So
That'll be fun.
Thank you, Ken.
All right, thanks a lot, man.
Appreciate it.